No.
No?
It is 5:30. That was about the biggest noise I've made in 3 years. So welcome, everyone. It is 5:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll do so with a roll call from Lynn, please.
Present.
Jody Lundquist. She is on the Zoom. Tanner Bieber.
Here?
Ken Warner.
Here.
Mark Healy. Andy Robichuk.
Here.
Laura Oblinger.
Here. Great, thank you. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Fellow trustees, any changes, deletions, rearrangements of our agenda? Okay, Andy, are you okay on audio? Can you hear us okay?
I'm sorry.
Okay, oh. That answered my question. I was curious if you are okay with the audio. Can you hear us okay?
It's faint, but
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, Lynn will work on that. We want to make sure you have full hearing ability as we go through the rest of the agenda. I would like to welcome Jason Slade to the podium. We're going to start this meeting with our strategic focus as we get very close to introducing our next strategic plan.
Great. Trustees, thank you very much for having me tonight. This update really aligns with the work that we just completed last week with you at the board study session. So thank you for your time with that. That was a very informative conversation, a lot of really good dialogue back and forth. You won't see much new in this memo. Some of it has to do with the timing. We turned this in about the same time that the board study session went through, but I will call to your attention to a few things and just reiterate a few things for the audience moving forward. So as we know, we're working our way through the development cycle of the plan. So we've identified the 3 strategies that we are pursuing and then have began the process and shared with you, obviously in the board study session, detailed objectives that we're working through. With this development cycle, we continue to gather input. As I mentioned at the study session, we were able to have a pretty robust industry partner panel. We've been able to get additional feedback from many of our educational partners. And then in addition, even today had further dialogue with some of our departments as to how they specifically fit in with the actions that drive the objectives that we've outlined in the plan. So as we move through the process, our goal will be to enter the December meeting having you approve the strategic plan and the 3 strategies that underline it. A couple things that I just wanted to share again is that we'll continue to refine that strategic impact statement. Received very good feedback from the board and from President Nisley during and after the board study session around refinements to that strategic impact statement as we look to make it tighter and more precise, working with Diana Fairbanks on that. And that'll be something that we can bring forth as we launch our strategies related to the strategic plan. Again, we'll drive into those 3 strategies around future-focused education, our enrollment student success, which really hinges on our ability to attract and retain students, and then our vibrant college campus. And as we heard in the study session, making sure that all our strategies align with those strategic drivers, paying close attention to our stewardship and sustainability as we look at revenue diversification and community partnership, which you know is very critical to the board. We'll continue our work with people first as we try to foster an inclusive and supportive environment. And then obviously the brand work that's really become a pillar of what we've done as an institution. I summarized the emerging objectives in here. These by no means trump the work that we did in the study session. I wanted to be careful in terms of our refinement and the work that we did in the study session that I didn't have duplication between objectives. So again, those objectives still stand. The formal ones we saw in the study session, which obviously were available for the public as well, are the ones that we're moving forward with as we try to drive future-focused education. What does it mean for our students, our programs, both regional programs that address workforce needs and national programs that draw people back to the college. And then obviously, as we look to add additional supports for our students in terms of better preparedness for those that are in our programs as we look to semester by semester persistence. Our enrollment strategies, that'll go across all markets. So as we look at our adult learners, our dual enrolled students, our traditional high school students, and then broadening that front door as we try to blend credit and non-credit into our academic programs. And then really, we want to make sure that we have a consistent advising model supported by our faculty that make it easier to navigate, keep students on time, and then connect them with the career or educational opportunities beyond NMC, and then our vibrant campus community as we look to drive the master plan, refresh and modernize our existing facilities and infrastructure, strengthen our sense of belonging for our students on campus, particularly those in our residence halls, and then ensure the employer of choice for the college. Next steps, not laid out in detail here, but I did want to make sure that I verbalized it. As we discussed in the board study session, we'll approve the strategic plan in December. And then I would like to come back beginning in February with a summary of the strategic plan up to that date. And then in March to review strategy 1 in detail around the metrics and emerging actions, giving you an opportunity to see how we're going to measure success in the strategies. April, strategy 2, as we jump into the student enrollment and success, how are we going to measure success for those? And then obviously in May, strategy 3. And then as part of that process, as we discussed, we'll refine how I report out to the board, both around strategies and those strategic drivers. So that's not listed in those upcoming milestones, but I didn't want you to think that was missed. So that's where I'll end it, Laura, just based on our discussions last week.
Yeah, thank you. What questions or comments might you have of Jason? Go ahead, Pam.
Sure, thank you. So will we have a format like this that has been updated? Is that what we'll be voting on in December? What will that look like?
Yeah, so I actually pulled the January 22 of 2022 format in the memo and how we went about it before. And so it'll actually lay out the board recommendation following the same policy that was requested in the previous one for approval of the college's strategic plan from 2026 to 29. I'll list the strategies. I'll list the objectives. This time, because we have strategic drivers, those will be in there as well. I will also call out specifically for documentation purposes the milestones of March, April, May, where we'll review the metrics in depth.
And just one other quick follow-up question. Will there be opportunities during those 3 months to add to and or refine objectives, or are we just going to stick with these?
We can do I expect some refinement. So
Okay.
for instance, I think as we're doing some of that preliminary work, we'll see that refinement on there. And so, no, I don't believe they're like set in stone to the point we can't edit them.
Thank you.
Oh, and just for clarification, again, we want to be more nimble. So even as we move into those next years, I would expect a sunset modifier add.
Excellent. Well, you've heard me say it over and over, and I probably can't say it enough. Excellent work. We appreciate the hard work. And I think because of all your work, you have us very well prepared to be able to go to our next step in December at our board meeting and get this executing just like you did the last one. So thank you, Jason. Appreciate this update.
Great, thank you all.
Yes. As we move into our reports and presentations, I'm quite excited about everybody we get to hear from. And first, we're going to hear from our Vice Principal, Corrine Kreiser, with the Greenspire High School. Welcome.
Hello,
Hi.
thank you for having me. You'll see here a picture of our part of our first graduating class of students, class of 2024, out in front of the Boardman Lake campus. On the second floor where Greenspire High School lives. So we know that probably during this time you're hearing our name a lot, hearing Greenspire High School a lot. So we just wanted to have the opportunity to come and introduce ourselves and let you know a little bit about us and kind of what we're doing over there on the second floor. So a brief history, we opened September 7th, 2021. So, right, kind of as everybody was coming out of COVID, we started with 63 students in grades 9 and 10. And we only had about half the second, it was half the second floor at the Boardman Lake campus at that time. Since then, we've added 1 grade per year. Until now, we have 164 students in grades 9 through 12, and we're going to have our 3rd graduating class this spring. Our program pillars were project-based learning, so we believe in hands-on learning. We only have 1 classroom that actually has textbooks. That's the math room, and honestly, I don't even think they use them. To be honest, it's not the curriculum they follow. So we believe in project-based learning and having the students go through a cycle of sustained inquiry and critique and revision and public-based product. We are an environmentally focused school. We're actually a Michigan certified green school. And some of the things we've done at the Boardman Lake campus have contributed to that. Our NHS students go out regularly and clean up trash. We've got a lot of different things that we do. So we believe in environmental preservation as one of our big pillars. We also believe in a small school model, so only 30 to 50 students per graduating class. For administrators, like myself, today I was running around the building all day and, just having conversation with kids. Kids are coming in and out of the office. I know all of them by name. I've met most of their parents. So really that small school model where we really believe in knowing our students well. So our partnership with NMC. So through work we've done with Jason Slade and some other people at NMC, we've been able to establish some unique GHS programs because of where we're located. So in 2024, we got 8 kayaks donated to our school. So as part of outdoor PE, our students go out kayaking on the Boardman Lake. We got approval for an archery program, so we call it the South Lawn. On the south end of the parking lot, students go out and do archery during PE class, nature exploration, recreation. Sometimes they just, the teacher will go out there at lunch and set up the archery range for the kids, and there's also an archery club. We have an Around the Lake program that started in 2012. Students have the option to hike, bike, or run around the lake. We have students who go fishing, and Field Fridays, walkable community connections established in 2023. So our Field Fridays kind of speak to our belief in getting students out of the building, out into the world, being part of the community, giving back. And so we go to Safe Harbor, they walk to the library. We have a lot of programs like that. We also, I don't think it's mentioned here, but we also have the Greenspire Native Flower Garden that we worked on the back side of the building with the Tart Trail. So that's a native flower garden that's between the building and the Tart Trail. A lot of our students are also NMC students. We don't offer AP classes. Like I said, we believe in getting students out there, getting them real world experience. By the time a student's a freshman, you're only looking at 4 years before they're going to be out there in the world. So in 22-23, which was the second year of our school, we were spending the first year getting the dual enrollment set up, getting early middle college set up, all those things. We had students take 15 classes in the fall and 13 in the spring, and now we're up to fall and spring about 70 of each. So it's about 30% of our student population by the time they're juniors or seniors are either early middle college or dual enrolled at NMC. So the advantages of having a high school kind of located and partnered within a college setting, so we can share resources, space, maintenance. We do have professors for EDU 100. Our early middle college kids, that's the first class they're required to take spring of their sophomore year. So a lot of times, Kristen will just come to our school and teach it. And if, a lot of times we don't have a classroom space, but there's space in the building, right? So they might go downstairs. Students are already familiar with NMC, right? And have like a perceived comfort. So Actually, a lot of our students will go downstairs to the first level during their study skills time with us. Even though we have common areas, they'll go downstairs and use the Zonta library on the first floor, or use one of the computer labs downstairs for their NMC courses. Ways we could enhance our partnership. So what we envision, internship opportunities with NMC departments. I don't want to say like we're the only high school out there that requires a 2-week internship of our students, but I don't know of any other high schools that require that. So one of the unique parts of our program is all of our juniors in May of their junior year, they don't have school for 2 weeks, and they leave our school and they have no classes and they go do an internship somewhere. They spend a lot of time in civics class during their junior year, preparing their resume, reaching out to organizations they're interested in working with. And basically, instead of coming to school for 2 weeks, they go to their internship for 2 weeks. It's really a life-changing experience for a lot of them. Doing internship opportunities with different NMC departments is something possible in the future. Environmental stewardship opportunities. Our students actually designed as part of a class project for Medalley Park because it floods all the time over at Logan's Landing, and we go there frequently. They designed water garden potential designs and presented them to the county parks or city parks. I think it's a city park. And they're actually going to use our students' design. Our students are going to help plant it, and now they've actually been asked to participate in doing more designs in conjunction. So there's those opportunities. Shared access to fields, nature, fitness spaces. As a small school, those are all things that are challenges for us. We don't have a gymnasium, for example. Greenspire student volunteer assistance with large NMC events. Our kids are used to volunteering. They're used to us sending them out in the world to help their community because it's part of being part of the community. Teacher professor job share model. We actually have 2 teachers who are adjuncts currently at NMC, and student teacher placement for teacher certification program. It would be great, if there was any opportunity to collaborate there on getting some student teachers in our building. So thank you. We value this educational partnership with you guys, and we wouldn't be where we are today 5 years in without that partnership. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. We love the partnership as well. I'm sure as Kennard has his hands up, we have questions. and
Yeah,
comments.
absolutely.
I've been there a few times
Yeah.
as representative of the Bar Association on Law Day.
Okay.
To talk about the rule of law.
Yeah,
and the
Nick's class,
Constitution.
right?
Pardon?
In Nick's class?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what kind of background I teach you to. What do you teach them about government or American history?
So every 9th grader takes an American history class. And then in their, as they move up in, different social studies classes, then they get into civics and economics in 11th grade. We do have a class that is unique to us because it kind of pulls together our core values, our environmental focus. For their senior year social studies class, they take a class called Global Citizenship, which is also about just being a good citizen of the world and what does that mean? What does that look like? So yeah, and we have had some students also participate. Oh no, I'm blanking on the name. World Quest. Does that sound Academic Quest? Yeah. We have students who participate in that as well.
Good. Any other? Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions for you. One real simple. Do we have any graduates from your first class who are enrolled at NMC now?
Oh yeah, lots. From our very first class, boy, I can think of at least 3. And then students who graduated last year, there's a lot. We've actually got 3 students right now who are part of the early middle college program who, they do the 5th year. So they technically graduated high school last year, but then they're finishing out their associates at NMC this year. And then, yeah, boy, I mean, we have a student who's in the culinary program, you know, and just kids taking all kinds of classes. Yeah, lots of them. Because a lot of them too, like love Traverse City so much, they want to stay and they want to stay local. They don't want
Yeah.
to transfer to a big university yet.
And Corinne, do I recall that your valedictorian last year is now enrolled at NMC?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Everett.
Yes.
Yeah, and Everett's dad teaches here
Yeah.
as well. So,
And I
yeah.
believe he's looking to head off to James Madison this next year.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah, we have so many kids. So many.
Thank you for that. I hope my phone going off was only in my ears and not for everybody else. It was loud. The other question was with the project-based learning. Kennard mentioned American history. Can you give us an example of a project that you would use to learn American history?
Yeah, so one that actually we have a project showcase twice a year. You guys should come. You know, it's like after school and all the kids put their projects out. The one they do it's actually in American literature, but they do it in conjunction with the American history class. We do a lot of, you know, cross classes too, where they do World War I and II like battlefield journals. So the kids have to do a lot of research on World War I and II and then kind of put themselves in the shoes of a World War I or II soldier to then like create like a battlefield journal, you know, of like what their experience was. Yeah.
Good. Andy, I see your hand is raised online, if I'm recognizing that right.
That's correct. My question is, of the 70 classes that are being, 70 people that are taking classes, are most of those classes taken from the main campus, or are some, you mentioned the one class being taught by you, but are there others as well? And the second part of that question is, how do people deal with transportation back and forth?
Right, yeah. So EDU 100, it's taught in our building, but it's taught by an NMC professor. It's a mix of online and in person. Typically, junior year, you see a lot more online classes because the kids may not have their driver's license yet. But our school, we actually don't offer transportation. So a lot of the kids are very familiar with the beta bus and different things. So junior year, you tend to see more online classes. And then as they move into senior year and the 5th year, then more in person.
Thank you. Jody, just checking in. Do you have any questions or comments for Corinne? Corinne, okay. Where do most of your students come from? Grand Traverse County or?
Grand Traverse, Leelanau, we have currently 3 students from Wexford County
Oh,
because they
wow.
live in Buckley.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of come from all over.
Yeah.
We get a lot of students who, you know, just the traditional school hasn't worked for them, or they're just slipping through the cracks.
Yeah.
You know, so the small school model and kind of that personalized social emotional learning kind of being baked into everything that we do. But then we also have the kids too who are just extremely high achieving and just want that independence and that autonomy.
Yeah.
So then they come to our school as well.
Got it.
Yeah, so we really have a really good mix.
Yeah, it sounds
Going
like
on.
it. Well, we've really appreciated this partnership. It's been very important to us too, you know, with alignment where we have experiential learning here so ingrained into our college, and you with your project-based learning, it really is a good segue from your students in high school to the learning here at the college. So thank you for
Yeah,
being
thank
here.
you.
Thank you for being such a good partner. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been
Thank
very
you for having me.
interesting. Thank you, Corinne. Okay, and with that, speaking of another great partnership, our Michigan Community College Association, otherwise known as MCCA, otherwise known as the organization that is critical to our work, the Executive Director, CEO, Brandy, is here with us. Thank you so much for making the trek up north and visiting us. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the board and President Nisley. It's a real treat for me to be able to be here, and it's really one of my favorite parts of, maybe my favorite part of my job is getting out of Lansing and visiting my members and especially going to board meetings. I was sharing with Trustee Horn that I learned so much from these meetings, and it helps me be a better advocate at the association. So the Michigan Community College Association represents all 31 two-year colleges in Michigan, including our 28 public community colleges and 3 tribal colleges. What makes our association relatively unique from other state associations is we represent both presidents and trustees. So I have the joy of reporting to a board of 62, all 31 CEOs of our colleges, plus 1 representative trustee from each college, and Trustee Horn sits on our board. Our mission is simple, and that is to be the unified voice for Michigan's colleges, empowering them to lead in the areas of student success, talent development, and community vitality. And we strive to be the state's leading advocate for post-secondary education and talent development. We're headquartered in Lansing, and we really do 3 main things. First and foremost, policy and advocacy. That's where the unified voice really helps our cause. I am your spokesperson and your chief advocate in Lansing, particularly with state priorities with the legislature and with the governor's office. And so I'll talk a little bit about what's happening in Lansing right now. And then we also have a very large body of work related to student success, really being your lead technical assistance partner and supporter to help the college embrace initiatives and innovations that help improve outcomes for students. And then we really help to facilitate collaboration between colleges. Michigan is really the only state in the country that has no version of either a state system of community colleges, nor any type of real state oversight of colleges. Our colleges are autonomous from each other and from the state. And so the MCCA can be that connective tissue or the glue between colleges to help them collaborate. So I'll start with policy and advocacy and just share some thoughts about where we are in Lansing. So finally, we have a budget. I've been working in higher ed state policy in Lansing for 17 years. I think this is my 17th budget that I've worked on, and I've never seen a process quite as dysfunctional as the one that we had this year. But at the end of the day, albeit late, the budget was finalized just shortly after the October 1st constitutional deadline. And all things being considered, community colleges fared okay. Big picture, the road funding boost was the big headline coming out of the budget. About $1.85 billion was appropriated to help fix the damn roads, but with some strong bipartisan support. Legislators were particularly mindful of the federal impact of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the reconciliation at the federal level, and were really cautious with this budget as they are starting to feel, as we are, as a state, are starting to feel the impact and wanting to make sure we haven't committed ourselves. They passed a structurally balanced budget, but again, are very future focused and recognize that there might be other pressures coming in the relatively short term, next year, which will be an election year, and the following year to be able to respond to cuts at the federal level. And this could constrain general fund dollars, of which higher ed is one of priorities that sometimes competes for general fund. In terms of what this budget delivered for community colleges, all in all, it was a 2.1% increase in operations on average across our colleges. They labeled this 2.1% increase as a one-time increase, and that's really just to sort of put a mark in the ground that in future years we might not be able to sustain those ongoing increases over time, although we will certainly advocate for that. The tuition restraint language is something that we like to point out to trustees. So basically, the legislature puts out a cap by which boards can increase tuition by. If they exceed that cap, then the college would forego funding. I'm happy to report that last year for FY25, all of our colleges easily complied with the cap. But moving forward, as we look to next year, the cap is going to be set at 4%. A change that we are able to get through is a forward-looking tuition cap. And so we can say now to you all today, as you are planning your budgets, next spring and setting tuition for next July, 4% tuition increase is that sort of magical number. MIPSers was another area that we've talked about, the state-funded retirement system, and there is not to get super in the weeds, but we got a huge win last year around lowering the employer contribution for MIPSers, and that was sustained, which makes us feel more confident that it's a permanent reduction and that colleges can plan on that lower rate moving forward, which is great news. On the more exciting front, the budget did deliver consistent funding for our student financial aid programs that we know help our students, including students right here at NMC. Full funding for Michigan Reconnect. You'll see that there was a $10 million reduction, but that should not be alarming to anyone. We just now actually have a better sense of what it costs. Reconnect is a relatively new program. And so the initial estimates as we were rolling the program out several years ago was that it might cost 55 or 60 million. Now that we have several years under our belt, we feel confident that it costs about $42 million annually, including all 4 cohorts of students being served at the same time. So that was really excellent news. In addition, there was funding set aside for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, which supports the Community College Guarantee, which provides a tuition-free pathway for students that are coming straight out of high school if they enroll full-time. And then in addition, one cut that we want to be mindful of is Going Pro. These are grants direct to employers to help train incumbent workers. Many employers partner with community colleges to train those workers. And so that is something that we are mindful of and will be advocating to get back in the budget. And then although no capital outlay projects were approved in this budget, there was a lot of discussion around capital outlay. It was in the Senate version of the budget, and we are anticipating that capital outlay projects, both construction authorizations and planning authorizations, will happen, if not next month in December, in early January. And we, although we're not privy to the individual projects, MCCA's position is that we want to get as many of our colleges' projects approved as possible. And so your legislators do a phenomenal job of advocating for NMC. And so we will continue to make infrastructure funding a big priority for MCCA. We only have a couple of weeks of session days over the next couple of months. And one of the things that we are working on is making those financial aid programs expanded and permanent. And so one of those sets of bills is around lowering the age of Michigan Reconnect down to 21. So right now, to be eligible for Reconnect, you have to be 25 years old. We had a temporary expansion using federal dollars. That sort of experiment went really well, and so we'd like to permanently lower the eligibility age down to 21. We have bills going through both the House and the Senate right now, bipartisan, sort of sponsored by Democrats in the Senate and Republicans in the House, and in both chambers. And we had a committee just recently. This is President Bradley Barrick. He testified from Montcalm Community College last week. And so that's something that we are working on. And then I mentioned the Achievement Scholarship, which is the umbrella for our large financial aid program for traditional age students. Similarly, we want to codify this into law, into statute. Right now, the Achievement Scholarship just lives in the budget, which means it sort of has to be renewed every year. We think that having it more permanently in statute will help it sustain, particularly as we're looking at a gubernatorial transition on January 1st of 2027. So that is also something that we are working on in the short term. At the association, we go through a really rigorous process to set a policy agenda with all of our members. So we're sort of right in the middle of our process right now. The legislative committee met last week to deliberate. The executive committee next month will adopt or recommend a 2026 policy agenda, and that was what we will be focused on for the year for 2026. The full board will have an opportunity to review that and approve that in January, but I don't think you'll see any surprises on our advocacy agenda. It will be about continuing to sustain operations increases for our colleges, more investment in infrastructure and capital, sustaining student financial aid programs. And then I was so pleased to hear about dual enrollment. That will continue to be a priority, is ensuring that students have access to dual enrollment and that K-12 schools can help to support and afford students to participate in dual enrollment more robustly. I'll just say a couple of things on student success. This is our framework on how we approach student success, but housed within the association is the Center for Student Success, which provides state-level support to Michigan's community colleges by serving as the hub, connecting leadership, administrators, faculty, and staff in their efforts to improve equitable student outcomes. So making sure not only that students, once they're here, persist and complete degrees, but that ultimately they see post-completion success. So one sort of somewhat of a paradigm shift we are seeing amongst community colleges nationally is a shift to Community College 3.0. Community College 1.0 was really emphasizing our open door mission. We are open access institutions, unlike four-year universities that have admissions criteria. We were always open access institutions and making sure we were embracing that. Community College 2.0 over the last 15 years or so has really been about orienting ourselves around completion, helping students complete degrees and certificates. And we're at this inflection point where we're really shifting our mindset to Community College 3.0, which is really holding ourselves accountable for post-completion outcomes, particularly in the labor market for our students. Not just our students getting degrees and certificates, but are they getting jobs that have that pay a living wage with upward mobility opportunities. And so we've embraced this framework called it's called More Essential Than Ever. It's a guided pathways initiatives from the Community College Research Center, and are really organizing our support. You all have mentioned Northwestern is really quite a leader in an experiential learning, and so that is one of the pillars. So I imagine we'll be calling on NMC to really coach our other colleges on how to do this. And so these are the things that we're working on. Just a couple of examples of more tangible projects. One is the Michigan College Credit for Apprenticeships program, which is something that we believe NMC will participate in, and that is to award college credit for students that have completed registered apprenticeships in the skilled trades. So say I have just completed a 4-year electrician apprenticeship through the IBEW. We're going to work with our colleges to award a standard number of credits for that. And again, these are very rigorous programs. And then create a pathway for those students to very efficiently complete an associate degree. So that's something that we're rolling out in partnership with the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity that we're excited about. Finish Forward is a reverse transfer initiative that NMC is also participating in, and that's basically helping award associate degrees to students who have transferred to a four-year university. So many students are here and they take 30, 45, 55, or even 60 or more credits, but never apply or ask to be conferred their associate degree. They then go to a four-year university, say I have 55 credits from here, I transfer, I really just need 60 credits for that associate degree, I transfer. I heard a young woman said she's transferring to CMU. Once she has those 5 credits earned at CMU, CMU transfers the credits back to NMC, and NMC awards a degree. And so we are really excited about this project and making it, using technology to help make it efficient as possible. We host a leadership academy to invest in leaders right here on campus, to provide professional development, to help them take on higher roles at the institution. This year we have 2 NMC staff participating, Daniel Goodchild and Kelly Yock. And we're very grateful for NMC to continue to support the Leadership Academy by both sending individuals. President Nisley often also is a faculty member of the Leadership Academy and speaks to our fellows and certainly inspires them. And so then just the last thing I'll say, and then I'm happy to take any questions, is just some save the dates. One is just coming up very soon, I guess next week. I just wanted to give a shout out to Trustee Horn for registering to join us on December 4th and 5th in Lansing for the Trustee Governance Leadership Institute. ACCT is the nation's leading organization to support professional development of trustees. To participate in their professional development events, you often have to go really far away places in other states to get their really robust 2-day or 3-day governance leadership institute. And so we partner with ACCT to bring it to Lansing. So folks and busy trustees who are volunteers don't have to travel so far on these sort of expensive trips. And so grateful for your participation. April 16th is our Capital Day next year. Bring trustees, administrators, students, especially mascots. They really make the day great. And then we will be using that legislative agenda I mentioned to drive our meetings with legislators all day. Our summer conference is July 29th through 31st on Mackinac Island. We also had our conference last year at Mackinac Island, and I wanted to give a special shout out to Trust Chair Oblinger and Diana Fairbanks, who presented in front of, as a plenary session or as a keynote session about how NMC has done its rebranding effort, and it was incredibly well received, and so much so now that the Lumina Foundation has approached us about replicating what NMC has done with many other colleges in Michigan. And so just wanted to say thank you again for presenting and being such an inspiration for your fellow members. And then lastly, just wanted to say that the entire MCCA will be here next year for our fall Board of Directors meeting. So that 62-member board that I report to, we have 2 in-person board meetings a year in the spring and in the fall. And with 31 colleges, and we always have them on college campuses, and we rotate. And so once every 15 years or so, a college gets to host us. And so yours is coming up, and everyone will be really delighted to be in Traverse City in September. But we'd love to see all of our host trustees come and meet your fellow presidents and other trustees. So thank you. This is my contact information. I wanted to say also just happy Thanksgiving. I am so grateful each and every day to have this job and to advocate on your behalf. And so I just wanted to send warm Thanksgiving wishes to all of you and your families. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Brandy. I'm sure we have questions, comments.
I have 2 questions. One is the MIPSR stabilization. Is this something we can comfortably rely on, or is it still likely to be adjusted with general economic conditions or differing actuarial assumptions?
Yeah, I am actually feeling quite confident that the employer contribution rate for MIPSers, so there's a couple of different parts of MIPSers, but that part of it, lowering our employer, you all are in the employer, your employer contribution rate into the system for healthcare of retirees from 21% down to 15%. That 6 or so percentage points resulted in significant cost savings for the colleges, and I do think that that will be permanent. There was, not only was it now in the budget 2 years, there's also statute that went along with it that has been signed by the governor. So of course, future legislators and governors could reverse that, but I feel pretty dang confident that it will be permanent.
The other area is the college credit for the trade apprenticeships and internships and whatever. What is the ultimate goal there? Are they going to also include some general education things that we would have in a standard 2-year degree, or are we just calling them now college credits?
No, that's a really great question, and thank you so much for that. So we think that for most of these, and I sort of skipped a step that is interesting, we are going to, each of the trades is going to share their curriculum with the American Council on Education. ACE is the largest national higher ed organization in the country, and they have a service where they evaluate learning experiences, military experience, work experience, et cetera. They evaluate it for a college credit equivalency. So we anticipate that for these trades, they're gonna come back and say they are the equivalent of between 39 and 45-ish credits based on the length of the apprenticeship. So an associate degree is 60 degrees. So to answer your question, yes, those students will ultimately take general education courses to kind of round out their associate degree. It's sort of the opposite order that we often think about degrees in, is that you take your sort of general education courses and then you specialize in your program of study or major. We're flipping that. So the students will have a deep skill set in a trade, and that's kind of their major. And then they need the sort of finishing touches. We really are working to make sure that those general education courses are really branded and thought of as employability courses. So, your composition class, your writing class, one, that's not just a general ed class that you throw away. That's actually where you learn things like professional writing and communication. And so we want to make it relevant for individuals that are completing their associate degree that have that sort of occupational thing. But yes, it's likely that of that 15 credits that you'll need, it will likely be sort of a college composition class, a math class, a social studies class, but there's also some room to put in some relevant content like a small business finance class. So these individuals may want to start their own small companies or businesses in the trades, or taking classes in entrepreneurialism. The other area that we will want to emphasize is maybe a class in management on how to be a good supervisor, because that's a really, a way to sort of move up is to supervise other tradespeople.
I'm glad to hear that. That's a good answer.
I agree. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I'm sure that every one of the colleges is worrying about and working on AI. I'm curious what MCCA is doing in a collaborative fashion.
That's a really, really great question. So a couple of things, and there's so many different applications of AI in a community college setting. So last year we actually had an event where we brought together for professional development how colleges are utilizing AI in their operations. We actually had the lieutenant governor attend. His background is in computer science, and so he nerded out with all of us about this. So there's I think three big ways that we're looking forward to helping colleges collaborate on AI. One is around sort of student services, like using technology for student services. Obviously, never removing the human element of student services, but really optimizing and maximizing use of technology to know when a student, sort of like early detection systems, when students need support. And also just making sort of the bureaucratic procedures that colleges have to do, processing student financial aid, all those sorts of things, using AI to optimize it so that more of the humans can spend their time actually directly in front of students and sort of freeing up their capacity to helping individuals because of the efficiencies in some of processes. Second is obviously around how faculty can use AI in the classroom from a teaching and learning standpoint. So in that way, MCCA will convene faculty to share with each other. And then the third is actually standing up degree and certificate programs in AI for students to earn degrees and certificates. So we've seen Grand Rapids Community College launch a certificate program in AI, Washtenaw Community College in Ann Arbor start one. So as more colleges create these new programs of study, as labor market really demands these skills, then our colleges are really good about sharing, the content and the curriculum across each other to sort of inspire other colleges that may want to stand up new degree programs and certificates.
Thank you. That too was a good answer. I would like to just suggest,
Yes, please
I hope
do.
you will have a plenary session or two.
Great.
In which you bring, at the meeting in the summer,
Yes.
in which you bring some of the really good ideas around the state to all of us.
Awesome, you got it. Thank you for that feedback. That's really helpful.
Go ahead.
Couple of questions. First of all, Brandy, thank you for all that you do. You do a great job, and we really appreciate it. One quick question and then one a little more complex. So if Reconnect is lowered to age 21, is that 40 million still going to cover it?
Probably not. We'll probably need to boost it in the following year. We have enough reserve that if they passed it and it got immediate effect, we could probably open it up in the winter for students that are currently enrolled, that are 21 to 24, to knock off some of their tuition. But I think in future years, we'd have to appropriate probably 5 to 10 million more, which in the big scheme of things is infinitely doable,
Okay, good to know. And I think many of us very much appreciate how decentralized higher education is in Michigan and how kind of ungoverned it is. However, that does mean that associations, institutions have to do a lot more in terms of
That's right.
data sharing and that sort of thing. One thing, and I really appreciate all the other efforts, reverse transfer and trying to get to the 60% with degrees and credentials, but also the state of transfer in Michigan and kind of what you're thinking in terms of how can we get a better handle on how transfer from our member colleges to the four-year institutions is going, particularly with eventual completion of the bachelor's for those who aspire for that.
Yes, thank you. That's an excellent question. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The autonomy that our institutions have, protecting that autonomy is a core value of the association, and ensuring that there's not overreach from the state. One of the best parts of having this autonomy is, two things. One, that they're locally governed, right? You all are held accountable by the voters, and you know what your community needs. And so having the college to be able to very quickly and nimbly respond to employer needs is critically important. So that's, to me, the best part of that. But there are instances where not having a strong state partner can make things difficult, and I think transfer is a beautiful example. A couple of years ago, the governor established a new state agency called MyLeap, the Michigan Department of Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Potential. And MyLeap has kind of three core functions. One is everything related to early childhood, 0 to 5, our childcare subsidy, our state-funded pre-K, which is DSRP. A second bucket of supporting K-12 students, particularly around out-of-school time and enrichment opportunities, after-school programming, et cetera. And then the third is around higher education. And I think there was a lot of nervousness that the establishment of an Office of Higher Education within MyLeap might creep into that overreach. And so we've been really carefully monitoring that at the association and of our members. But one area we really encouraged MyLeap to lean into is transfer. It's really hard to be from the community college, largely the sending transfer schools, to basically be begging for your universities to accept our credits. And it's kind of, oftentimes demoralizing. Having the state of Michigan really call the question to four-year universities about their transfer acceptance policies has been a really great part of MyLeap. So in last year's budget, they appropriated $1 million for MyLeap to work on transfer and hired a transfer sort of specialist or director. Her name's Katie Girardello. She's been working really hard over the last couple of months to pull together a plan. And part of that plan is to create some new transfer pathways. We have strong transfer pathways in 10 majors in the state of Michigan, and we want to add another 10 or so majors that our universities will more universally. So the answer to your question is I actually think that this is a great role for MyLeap, and we'll be supporting them in doing that.
And Pam, if I can add there, our own Stephen Siciliano
Yes.
was selected by MyLeap to serve on the state transfer advisory committee, so.
Great.
Yes, that's exactly right. And yes, that is exactly right. And
Well, and
what a great representative.
fantastic. And I think a part of that is credits are one thing, and that needs a lot of attention. And as Brandy knows, I've been on the other side of that as well at a couple of our institutions in the state. But also the data, even if it's not always pretty, and we know what Columbia does and some others around community college transfer, but I think we need to know, because the state has invested in these 31 institutions, what happens for those who do aspire to the bachelor's. What's that look like for our state?
That's exactly right. And our students that do transfer are successful, and we punch above our weight in terms of the success outcomes of our transfer students.
Brandy, as you can tell, that you are an enormous asset, and great to have you here. I don't have a question. I have just one thing I want to leave you with and we'll continue to work on this as a board. But as you go into the fall, planning for the 27 legislative agenda, the one area that is interesting is the Michigan Community College Act is a document that I think was last updated almost 10 years ago. And as our industry is ever evolving, I would encourage our MCCA team to look at that act and make sure that it's accurate, and specifically in areas of geography and how we are able to expand our footprint is not a very, it's not a good business model for how, we'd have to do it through annexation and taxpayer dollars and all that. So it's just an area that we need our state association to help us look at and make sure it's still relevant in some of those specific specific areas, and I'm sure we'll bring this forward to you again. But, you know, I will say probably the greatest compliment to you and your entire team at MCCA is there's an enormous amount of content coming out of the state that impacts what we do. And we get a great deal of peace of mind knowing you're at the helm and the MCCA team is out there advocating for us. So thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you so much. And I'll just say, you mean, you're not stealing the thunder, but next year marks the 60th anniversary of the Community College Act. And so we think that that could be a good leverage point to say a lot of it is the original
I know.
act from 1960, or I'm sorry, from 1966. So it's
Right.
a 60-year-old act, and I think it ought to be modernized.
Well, especially if we could have a seat at that table, because especially in this northern part of Michigan, when we have a lot of desert areas, it's really important to us to be able to serve them and do so in a way that isn't so literally taxing.
Literally, good word for it.
I guess I didn't mean that pun, but maybe I did. I don't know. Again.
We'd much rather deal with the MCCA than with the state
Thank you.
department.
Yes. That's a great compliment and a great way to end
Right,
my
yeah.
presentation. Thank you so much again. And again,
Absolutely.
happy Thanksgiving. I definitely should not have favorite colleges, but I will say.
You can, as long as it's us. As long
It
as
is.
it's us.
I just, there's honestly no place I enjoy visiting more than this campus. And President Nisley has just been an incredible asset to
Right.
our association, and spending time with all of you is really a treat for me. So again, happy Thanksgiving, and thank you
You
so
too,
much for
Brandy.
inviting me here.
Thank you so much. Such a joy. Okay, and rounding out our reports and presentation, we are excited to hear from Jakob Wheeler, who is an instructor with NMC and advisor with the White Pine Press. And then also joining Jakob is Minnie Bardenhagen, right? A student for NMC. So welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you now.
Thanks, board members. It's an honor to be able to
Yes.
chat with you for a few minutes. My name's Jakob Wheeler. I'm an adjunct here, faculty advisor for the White Pine Press award-winning student-run newspaper. I always emphasize those adjectives. We publish 10 print editions each school year, are distributed throughout campus and around locations around Greater Traverse City. Also online at whitepinepresstc.com. I'll keep my remarks brief because our accomplished and hardworking student editor-in-chief, Minnie Bardenhagen, is here, and her words carry far more weight than mine do. And I hope that any questions you have, you'll address them to her. But Brandy, I'm glad you mentioned experiential learning earlier. I just want to share three quick things. The first is, we speak of experiential learning here, students learning in the proverbial field, and I would argue that the work our students do at the White Pine Press, the experiences they have, the stories they document, are, fitting to the glove an example of experiential learning. Which in journalism speak, we often refer to as immersion journalism as well. Some of our cover stories, I think we have a few copies of the White Pine Press. 4 of our 5 fall editions are in your hands. Some of the cover stories you'll see are kind of deep dive feature stories of students chatting with local cherry farmers who are struggling to continue their family traditions and keep cherries in the ground. Stories about local political demonstrations and how they fit into the political moment of the time. A great story in last week's edition about local veterans issues and honor flight, and the great work this college does to honor veterans, including the ceremony that was held on campus. And also a story that Minnie wrote, which is a favorite of mine, kind of a deep dive looking at how the caustic political environment in our nation right now, how it impacts how comfortable or uncomfortable students feel in articulating their political convictions or opinions in class, which is alarming but very, very important. So I hope, the one thing you take away tonight with respect to the White Pine Press is please think of us as experiential learning. The second point I'll make is, the paper distributed throughout Greater Traverse City, it's really a great representation of this college, stories about what's happening at this college, initiatives For example, I mean, our late October edition of the White Pine Press had interviews with city commission candidates who were asked a myriad of questions, including what they thought of this college, what they thought of, to borrow Nick's words, the community's college, what they thought of NMC and the role it ought to play here. And the third thing I'll mention is working at the White Pine Press affords one kind of lifelong important communication skills. We have students who have gone on from the White Pine Press to study journalism at Michigan State, at U of M, at Grand Valley, at Ferris. We have one of our alumni is a star environmental reporter at M Live. We have a recent White Pine Press alum who is a reporter at the Record Eagle. And yet, for those who aren't going to be, quote unquote, professional journalists, the skills learned at the White Pine Press include incredible communication skills. I mean, conducting an interview, structuring a story, fairness and accuracy, fact checking, and also working together in a group setting and leading a team. So it's been a lot of fun to work with these students, but I'd like Minnie to reflect on, I guess, your experiences and what's meant to you, right? Thanks.
Hello, thank you so much for having us. I want to share a little bit about my own NMC journey because it started in high school when I joined the Career Tech Writer Studio program. And at Career Tech, that is where I learned about the dual enrollment opportunities that NMC has. And before I even graduated high school, I was able to earn 16 college credits, 9 through dual enrollment and 4 through the Career Tech Writer Studio program. And when I applied for NMC, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had this idea in my head that I was going to be a musician, and I kind of locked myself in that box for most of my high school career. But over the summer, I was like starting to grow a passion for journalism, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And then 2 weeks before my first semester at NMC, I made an appointment with an academic advisor, and I said, hey, is it too late to change my entire career trajectory and change all my classes and my major? And he was like, no, we can do that. And that's when he told me about the White Pine Press. And I cannot say enough good things about my experience at the White Pine. Probably one of the most fulfilling decisions I've ever made in my life, because when I joined the White Pine Press, I was super passionate about meeting people and talking to people and learning their stories, but I was really shy. And I remember that was one of the first things I talked to Jakob about. I said, hey, so I want to interview people, but I can't talk to people. What do I do? And when I tell you that over the past year and a half of my life, my communication skills have improved would be an understatement. I have interviewed international affairs experts. I've interviewed state and local politicians. I've interviewed, obviously, faculty members and students, and just all sorts of things. And the environment at the White Pine Press, I need a supportive environment in order to learn and grow. And I would say that the environment that both Jakob and the previous editor-in-chief created was, they believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. And that meant a lot to me. And it allowed me to grow into the person I am today, which is the current editor-in-chief of the White Pine Press. And I hope that for the students at the White Pine right now, that what they get from this year is the same confidence that I was able to get my first year at the White Pine. The White Pine Press also gave me many opportunities to travel around and meet professionals in the field. Last year in the spring, I was able to attend the Associated Collegiate Press Conference in Long Beach, California, where I got to attend several meetings with professional journalists and learn various skills. And the White Pine Press also won a 10th place award for community college newspaper in the nation. So I just want to point that out. And Along with that, I was able to attend the Michigan Community College Press Association Awards at Central Michigan University, where I won first place for my news story on breakfast businesses in the campus plaza right over there. And most recently, I was able to participate, I am technically still participating in the Michigan Press Association Foundation Fellowship, where I was able to travel to Lansing for 2 days and meet with state politicians, Capitol reporters, the Michigan Attorney General, and talk about the Freedom of Information Act. And after NMC, I'm planning on transferring to Central Michigan University. I've already been accepted. And I'm just really grateful because all my credits transfer perfectly, and the process has been quite a breeze. I feel like there's a lot of resources here to help me with that, with like the University Center and having representatives on campus all the time. And I honestly think that the skills and the values and the ideas that I learned at the White Pine Press will stay with me throughout my entire life.
Beautiful. What a great story. Are there any questions or comments for Minnie? Well, I would like to say a few things. First, Jakob, thank you so much for presenting Minnie to us today and all that you do for the important White Pine Press. But Minnie, if you were ever shy, would have never known it. The way that you have provided us all with great eye contact and the way that you've stood at that podium, and do you know there are so many very well advanced folks that have spoke in front of people a lot and continue to say and yeah, and you have not done any of that. So I just can't reiterate to you enough how far you must have come, and you've done a great job here tonight. You also illustrated to us that our mission is alive in students like you. I heard you talk about a transformation in your life, and that's part of our mission. So thank you for bringing it to life. Thank you for being here, and we're proud to have you as a student.
Thank you, that means a lot to me.
Good. Thank you, Minnie. All right. We are at this portion of our agenda for public input. I don't believe we have any. So we will move forward with President Nisley's update.
I'd like to share two key things tonight. One, because Thanksgiving's on the horizon, I do want to explicitly share some thanks tonight and connect it back to some things happening on campus today. But I want to say thank you specifically to our board members for your volunteer service, attending the board meetings, attending committee meetings, attending celebrations on campus, like our fellows celebrations, like our retirement recognitions, attending college events, like our musical concerts, like IAF, attending the beginning of the year events, like Welcome Week, the end of the year events, like graduation. So it's a long-winded way of saying thank you for your volunteer service and caring so deeply about the college, but also specifically caring for our students and caring for our community. The connection to today's events is your role models. And our students, our faculty, our staff, our community look to you and how you behave as board members, and they take cues from you. And two things happening on campus today that I'm incredibly proud of. One has been happening for 10 years, and it's Christy McDonald's business communications class. And I know you've probably already caught this in the media, but to remind you, 212 meals for families were handed out today, thanks to those students. Normally that's in the 100 range. The need is that much greater this year, and the students work that much harder to increase their donations. So incredible that that service learning continues on campus. So our students who are often in need are in fact giving back to other students and families. The other thing that literally was happening just on the other side of the parking lot from that was our mobile food pantry. And you know that comes twice a month to campus. And today, there were 7,000 pounds of food distributed, which is about double what we normally have. Both of those events, I know that often I'll see you out there, and tonight did see you out there. Also, we see foundation board members, we see faculty, we see staff, and students. There are almost 30 volunteers working there today. So I share those two examples because obviously they connect to the spirit of Thanksgiving, but my thanks to you. And just to remind you, our foundation's mission of mobilizing generosity, when I think of Christie's students, they're not just simply doing something for themselves, they're doing something for other students who they feel are in greater need than themselves. And I think that spirit of mobilizing generosity is something that you role model. And I think those students take cues, and I'm not sure there's many other community colleges that could say today they've had two events like that. So again, thank you for that attitude of gratitude and that spirit of generosity that you share with the college campus. The second or last thing I want to share, a little bit more business or college focused. And while I did include an update on this in my mid-month report, I do want to make sure I reiterate, because it's important in terms of timing and just to be sure that you have this on your radar, but it relates to the East Bay Beach District, the Corridor Improvement Authority. And just to remind you, since this last spring, Troy and I have spent a lot of time meeting with East Bay Township personnel, including their supervisor, Beth Friend, as well as Claire Carner, the planner. And obviously, we're trying to get our hands around what are they proposing, what are they planning, and what's its impact on us. We also attended the first convening of all the taxing jurisdictions, so we got to hear firsthand what the potential impact is. And we've also relied on expert counsel like Robert Parker from Parker Harvey, as well as our own Gabe Schneider. Two dates to keep in mind. One, October 13th, so last month, they formally voted to establish that Corridor Improvement Authority. And if I had to boil it down to, well, what is the Corridor Improvement Authority? Basically, it's envisioned to help cover public safety and placemaking improvements. In other words, to improve that East Bay Beach District. So they've established the authority. The second thing, November 10th, they formally appointed a CIA board, in other words, the Corridor Improvement Authority Board. So that board is now in place. The next step, that board will convene for the first time in December. We're not 100% sure, but what we're hearing from the township supervisor is it's likely that they will bring a TIF plan forward at that meeting. It's not the final plan, it's the beginning process of a lengthy public engagement. There would be a formal hearing, and what we're hearing from the supervisor is that that hearing would probably be no earlier than February. So we have between now and February. If the plan is brought forward next month, we'll have from December to February to read, absorb, digest that plan. Right now, we only have assumptions about what we think the plan is about. So what we're intending to do, we've already reached out to the supervisor, asking her, would she come to either the January 26th or the February 23rd board meeting, so you can hear directly from the township supervisor about what is being planned there. As I've shared before, we do have the opportunity to opt out of a TIF. That opt-out, as we understand, would begin, there's a 60-day timeline, and that 60-day timeline begins in February once they hold the formal hearing. So we would have between February and April to decide upon that opting out. Again, I'm not presupposing that we are or we aren't. That's why we would want to bring the supervisor in to learn a little bit more and for you to have deliberations. But I wanted to be sure that I think it bared repeating and making sure I create a space for questions as well. So I think those are the two key things for this evening.
Great updates, thank you. What questions, comments? Go ahead, Ken.
Could you update us on where we are with the geothermal project? Because I know we were originally going to issue bonds in September to finance it, and then October approve our first actual construction, and those didn't happen. So where are we now?
Troy, do you want to give us that thorough update?
So the Geo project right now, they're in the middle of modeling the system and deciding which design route we want to take. There's a difference between a 2-pipe system, a 4-pipe system. So right now they're in the middle of modeling that. And once we decide on which model is the right route, then they'll go into preliminary design. And once we have that preliminary design, we'll be able to start estimating what the budget will be. And I think that's the trigger for us to go out and issue bonds.
Do you have any idea of the timeline?
My understanding is that January would be the timeframe that we would have that preliminary design. Is that correct, Patrick?
So January 9th is our next updated meeting with the builder and the design team to figure out where we might end up landing on that. And then we have a go, no-go meeting with the DOE on the 27th, I believe, of January. So what we should be, the month, by the end of the month of January, we should be ready to pull the trigger.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, then I'll move right into my chair update, and I have just two things. They're not minor, but one is we've heard much from Nick on just keeping us updated on the situation that happened a couple weeks ago on campus. The only thing that I want to say publicly is the gratitude for our STS security team, specifically Garrett and Robert. Our students are our #1 asset and very important to us. And if you could take back to them, Nick, on behalf of the board, how grateful we are for them taking such good care of our students. The second thing I want to say is just kind of interesting to me. As you all know, I had stepped out of for some family issues for about a month of not my role as chair, but I wasn't able to be very active in the college. And the reason that I want to bring this up is the reflection that I had while not being as active in meetings and at events. I wasn't able to join you at ACCT, but what was really interesting to me is that how prevalent our college is, even when we're not sitting here at the trustee table. When we're so ingrained in our college as a trustee. And it's hard to not have it in front of us almost every day because of our engagement. But when I had the opportunity to just kind of get some space and step back for a few weeks, I was able to listen to the things in the community about our college from a little different lens. And I heard so many times coming in front of me in the form of students that were on their way here, students that were starting to join for the first time in the fall semester, hearing from students that have been here a long time, just talking about their activity on social media, watching from a very different lens from afar, watching everything that goes on here, the walk for health and housing, all the earned media that we're able to receive through our positive earned media, that we were able to see, the food pantry work that was done, and talking to a friend and hearing about the charcuterie event that she went to at our Culinary Institute. My point is that I wasn't as involved with NMC on a day-to-day level through all of the formal ways as a trustee, but my goodness, it never left my presence because of how it's talked about in the community and how it's used, our college is used in our community. I just thought that was a really neat reminder as we sit so close to our college that maybe that's preparing me for, as my trustee term comes to an end close, that this college is so incredibly a critical role in our community, and so many lives, from students to those that have lived here for a long time, and it just makes me so proud. So that's my chair report for you. I am willing to take any questions or comments that you have for me. If not, I would like to hear from each of you as we move to the next item on our agenda, which is the ACCT event that I was not able to be at. And Trustee Weaver, I will look to you first because you were the most formal with all of your notes. So I'd love to hear what some of the learning and outcomes were from that event.
Yeah, well, I attended some of the AI things with Ken, which he will speak about it, I'm sure. The one particular session that I was interested in was cybersecurity, an Illinois college, community college, which was attacked. And they had months and months of just paralysis. Because what happens is, as soon as you're attacked, you shut down all of your electronic systems. And you cannot open them up again until your cybersecurity insurance company tells you you can. If you open them up earlier, your insurance is immediately canceled. So the payroll was frozen, telephones were frozen, all kinds of communications were frozen. Classes were canceled because you couldn't do those without the electronic devices. They ended up with their next semester being delayed 3 or 4 months. They carried about $10 million of cybersecurity insurance. It was inadequate. When they were asked by a member of the audience, who attacked you? They said, the White House has told us we cannot disclose that. Well, that tells you who it was right there. It narrows it down to about 3 possibilities. I'm not going to name them here. This is something I think we need to take a serious, more complete look at, particularly since in the last couple of weeks, we have found that cybersecurity attacks are now being carried out by AI, which means that it's not limited by the fatigue of people. It could just go on and on and on. It's something that we need to recognize is it's a fact of life, and we need to figure out how to deal with it. And we're going to do that.
That's right. Thank you. I appreciate your reflection, and that sounds like a really important topic. Ken, you went, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Kennard's comment reminds me of, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? So I attended 10 sessions, and 5 of them were on AI. 2 of them were on data-informed governance for boards of trustees. I'm going to limit my comments to a few of the learnings from the AI sessions. And I have to say, by the way, I've been really pleased this year to see the college's serious focus on this, from the October 14th conference to what's going on now in the development of the new strategic plan. Wake Tech College in North Carolina presented a terrific session on redefining learning and teaching. They have a website on AI literacy for students, faculty, and staff, which I have not looked at, but I suspect it would be worth looking at. But they came up with what I think is one of the most fabulous ideas for teaching and learning using AI. If I were still teaching, I would incorporate this into my courses for sure. And this applies to English and history courses. It applies to biology and chemistry. It doesn't matter which it is. They use, using AI, they have a student engage in a Socratic dialogue with a prominent personality in the field, either a current one or one from history. And so they're having this conversation going back and forth about scientific issues or literature or whatever it is. And part of the beauty of it is the teacher ends up with a transcript of this conversation. So they can assess how this student is doing in terms of critical thinking or the substance of what they're dealing with. I think this is absolutely brilliant. There's an interesting idea from Connecticut State Community College, which is a 77,000 student mammoth. I don't know how many campuses they have, but they have established a presidential fellows program in AI. So they're giving the, a handful, it's 37 in their case, but that's out of campus with 77,000 students. But they are giving some part-time coverage to faculty members for a period of, I think it's 4 months to a year, to develop AI relevant projects for the school system. And they claim that they've already had several high impact studies in the first 4 months. The best session of all, I know Kenneth was attending that one as well, was, and I say the best session, I think a lot of people felt that way about it, was Transforming Higher Education Through AI with Professor John Sands from Moraine Valley Community College in Illinois. He has an NSF grant and a collaboration with Microsoft and Anthropic, and has developed this absolutely incredible website that has modules on everything you can imagine regarding community colleges and AI. I provided the trustees with the website previously and encourage you to look at it. His primary interests focused on professional development, curricular innovation, student workforce readiness, and national collaboration. And he emphasized to me when I spoke with him afterwards personally, that he is available for faculty development workshops. He's been to 20 states so far through this grant, this NSF grant, and apparently loves to do that. And I don't know whether that's something we should be thinking of doing, but the guy was great. Would you agree with that, Kenneth?
Yeah, the other interesting thing he said was there are about 15 different software programs that an instructor can use to see whether a student is using AI. But if the student knows those programs, he can trick those every time and you can't catch it.
Right.
Thank you. That's very interesting.
It's a great meeting.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Pam?
Well, my first time at ACCT, and I didn't know we were supposed to take notes and such, so
Well,
next
just give
time.
me a- no,
I
just
will.
give me
No,
a
well,
aha for you.
Couple of high level. One, I did go, because it was my first one and my first full year on the board, I did go to a number of sessions on governance, as did Mark. We were in a lot of the same sessions. And just very reinforcing and gratifying to see that we follow the strongly recommended governance models that the association recommends. So that was very good. And I did, one session that I did go to that was particularly provocative though, was one where there were two really dysfunctional boards and their presidents talked about that publicly.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. And I have been to other conference sessions in my career where people talk about a terrible situation or failures or whatever, and what are the lessons learned. And these presidents talked about how they actually managed renegade board members. And so it was absolutely fascinating. And sometimes most conference sessions are brag sessions, but those that really talk about problems and how you address them, I find to be particularly interesting. There was another one that I went to that was fascinating. It was late in the afternoon. It was small attendance, but it turned out to be very interesting. Chair of the trustees and the president. Small, relatively small college in a very, for lack of a better word, very conservative, very red area of the country. And how this president, who comes from, actually had a clerical background, clerical as in the clergy, not secretary, but how he manages the mission of his institution in dealing with constituents in his region around issues of inclusion and diverse populations and serving those who are underserved, and how he sort of manages that. His board chair was a very different personality. His was very calm and deliberate. She was much more of a go-getter. Anyway, fascinating to see how they worked together and how they managed in pretty challenging circumstances to fulfill the mission of their college. Through I guess a default sort of selection over email, I ended up being our delegate.
It was a default.
It was to ACCT, which honestly, I learned doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot, but what I learned was the voting delegates basically have only ratification authority on issues of substance, but there were two that were sort of interesting. And one was that there was a change in the goals of the association. There had been a stated goal around diversity, equity, inclusion, and that was changed to, quote, leadership behavior that is ethical and embraces the totality of ACCD's membership. Just to let you know. And then the second one was that the former DEI committee's name was changed to, quote, Impact and Success Committee. Again, we can talk more about that at another time, perhaps. There were single slates that were submitted for directors for the association, and all of those were elected for directors, including Jermaine Reed from Metropolitan Community College in Missouri as one of the generally elected directors, but who is based in the Midwest and then or the Central Region. And from the Central Region, Kathleen Ruinsma from Grand Rapids Community College and Robert Proctor from Lansing Community College were among those who were elected also. So some people that we know.
for sure.
And that we feel great about. So, but I did have a great experience.
It is
and appreciate
pretty
the opportunity.
impressive. Jody, I know you were there. Are you able to hear us and provide any of your feedback for your first time at ACCT?
So I would echo some of what has already said. One of the most impactful sessions for me was on policy, and then in our most recent study session, one of our recent study sessions, I shared with you about or asked questions about the incorporation of AI as we are thinking about redesigning our website, so far into the timeline, because that has been a success case study in one of the sessions for a college and how they're improving enrollment rates and retention. So incorporating all sorts of not only student data, but then how they're able to respond to questions after hours to meet prospective students where they're at. So if they're online at 11 o'clock at night and have questions about enrollment, how do we go? So it's really great to see as we are going through our own iteration of our training development year over year.
Thank you, Jody. Appreciate that. Thank you all for taking the time. And another volunteer opportunity, but it's really impressive to me, even not being there, but hearing what you've learned. I've been able to go to a couple, and it's really impressive, the passion that we all have around this table to take that knowledge and bring it back to our leadership at NMC. Thank you for spending the time there. Appreciate it. Let's move on to our consent items. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, sir, and a support. Thank you. And all those in favor of our consent items, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Okay, and moving now into our action items. May I have a motion to approve NMC resource guidelines for 25 and 26 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. And a support?
I'll second.
Thank you. And any discussion on the resource guidelines? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Any abstentions on that? Okay, and moving on to our beverage management certificate level 1. May I have a motion to approve beverage management certificate level 1 that will be effective fall of 26?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. And any discussion? And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? Okay, we have elevator upgrades, recommend authorization to enter into a contract with Cone Incorporated, the amount of $384,000. This includes the 15% contingency for elevator upgrades. This is coming from our 26 plant fund.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion on this?
Yeah, can I just say?
Yes.
I don't think this will affect much, but when I saw this initially at Building and Site, I was suffering from sticker shock. And I did a little bit of research, and I think it's probably quite reasonably priced, given what I learned from the research. And Patrick also was very helpful in explaining that this, as expensive as it is, it's necessary.
Yeah.
And it's just, we got to do
There
it.
aren't many options.
Don't have any options.
There really aren't.
We got to do it.
Yep, exactly. Appreciate the commentary. Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And any abstentions on this? Okay, we have a few updates to policies. May I have a motion to recommend adoption of the following board policies? This is on a first read basis.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion on these? They were good updates. No discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. And any abstentions? Okay, we are going to move into one of two closed sessions. This is a closed session to convene as permitted by Section 81C of the Michigan Open Meetings Act to discuss strategy connected to negotiation of collective bargaining agreements between the college and SEIU. This motion includes the closure of our regular meeting and opening a closed session. If I could please have a motion and a support?
I move. Close our session.
Thank you. And Lynn, will you roll call vote for us on that?
Ken Warner,
Yes?
Deanna Horn,
Yes.
Patrick Weaver,
Yes.
Laura Allinger.
Yes. Excellent. We'll give them a minute to remove signs and go from there.